Welcome back to Total FIFA Career Mode. Today we are coming to you from the Pitchside Pub, and we've got something that you are absolutely going to need if you want to play FC24 at the highest levels, because we've cracked the code on EA's Ultimate Difficulty sliders, and in this video I'm going to walk you through what changes we've made and how we've done it to make the game more realistic and actually playable, because at this level it's not if you play it on default settings. But before we do that, before we dive in, hit that subscribe button for me down below. Follow us on Twitter at Pitchside Pub, and of course, once you've tried these sliders out a few times, make sure you get in that comment section. Let me know what's working, what's not, what changes you think we need to make. I would love to get your feedback. Now first, let's talk about the problem. If you've played old FIFA games or new FC24 on Ultimate Difficulty, if you've played it at any point in the last 3 years, you know exactly what the problem is and what we're trying to fix here. On Ultimate Difficulty, the opposing players are incredibly fast. Every team plays mid-2000s Barcelona-esque tiki-taka football with incredibly quick one-touch passing that is impossible to defend. Every player on the opponent's team has incredible shot power and accuracy. They score from outside the box. It's impossible, and it doesn't really matter who you play with or who you play against. You cannot beat them. So the solution should be obvious, right? Just go down a level. Go down to World Class. The problem is World Class is too easy. Now, by no means do I consider myself an expert player. I don't really utilize skill moves, I don't play Ultimate Team, but I play the game a lot, and I've played it for years, so on experience alone, I'm a decent player, particularly against the computer in career mode. Yet when I play on World Class difficulty level, I find it way too easy. I can score very easily, and ultimately I win a lot. With evenly matched teams, I find that I win 85 to 90% of the games, and yes, I've done the legwork to test that out because it seemed too easy. And that's not just this year in FC24, this has been going on for about 3 years now. When EA put a massive patch into the game mid-season, they updated Ultimate Difficulty and they made it absolutely impossible. Theoretically, if you played the same game against two evenly matched teams over and over again, you should win about half the time, or at least win as often as you lose with a bunch of draws thrown in as well, because that's what would happen in the real world. If you took two evenly matched teams and they played a bunch of times, it would be pretty even distribution on wins, losses, and draws. Well, that's the goal of these sliders. We are trying to make a more realistic playing environment for FC24. And that's the key thing you need to understand about what these sliders are trying to accomplish and what EA is trying to do in the first place. EA says they want to create the most realistic football game on the market, but they don't really. They want to create an entertaining game that looks realistic. And entertaining for them means arcade style. Lots of skill moves, lots of scoring, lots of actions, lots of highlights. And hey, that's great. Good for EA and good for anybody who wants to play that. If that's the kind of game you want to play, by all means, go do it, and that's fantastic. And in that case, just go down to World Class level and show it off. It's fun. But if you're looking for a more realistic style, then that's what these sliders are for. These sliders are not for you if you want an arcade style game. I like a realistic game, and that's what I have attempted to create here. My goal was to create sliders that adjust FC24 to reflect the real-world product as much as possible. And that means making certain things more difficult, certain things considerably easier, and leveling the playing field between the user and the computer side, and slowing down the game in its entirety because it's way too fast, and that's that arcade style that EA is going for. So that's exactly what we've done. So I'll put the adjusted sliders up here on the screen, and I'll leave them up here while I'm showing you some gameplay and while I'm talking, and you can pause this video, copy them down, whatever you want to do, but you can see that almost none of the defaults are still in place, and while some of the changes are subtle, some of them are quite dramatic, and I'll walk you through some of the highlights here so you can understand what we've done and why we've done it. Now, the first thing we had to do was we had to slow the entire game down. And if you go to the game settings, we already have it on that slow-paced setting. But even on that, the players still sprint up and down for 90 minutes like it's stoppage time of a Champions League final. And there is a constant aggression from the computer-controlled team that is just insanely unrealistic. The players also cover ground on the pitch at an insanely unrealistic pace, so we had to slow down both the user and the computer-controlled sides. Now, at first it's going to feel like everyone's running in quicksand, but trust me, as you get used to it, you'll see just how fast the players were on the default settings, and it'll force you to get off of riding that R2 button and use a little more technique. You'll also notice that the sliders are not even for the user and for the computer. That's because the game's not particularly even, especially on Ultimate difficulty. The computer players are simply faster, stronger, they shoot more powerfully. So that's part of what we're trying to adjust in these sliders. We want to even the playing field so that two evenly matched players and two evenly matched teams are in fact evenly matched, because that's not what happens on Ultimate difficulty. Now, in order to slow the computer offensive aggression down even further beyond just player speed, we had to adjust the run frequency. This slider controls how the off-the-ball players make runs into the box, and you'll notice for that computer side, it's way down to 10. Now, that may seem like a lot, but I promise, go test it out. They still make plenty of runs, and they're still very difficult to stop. The runs are just much more controlled. Anything higher than that, and it's just a full-on sprint from every winger and every fullback beyond your back line into the box, and you're toast. You have no chance to stop it. But slowing these runs down was just part of the equation. We also had to slow down the ability of the computer to make these passes and to complete them to the players that are making the runs. The biggest, most noticeable issue with Ultimate difficulty is the speed at which the computer makes these passes. And we're talking about both the speed of the actual pass as well as the speed of their decision making. On default settings, the computer will complete 4 or 5 one-touch passes in a row with unparalleled precision, and you simply can't defend it. Now, we can't slow down the computer's decision making, that's not one of the sliders, but we can limit the effectiveness of their passing. So that's what we did. We dramatically lowered the pass speed, making it easier to intercept their passes, and then we dramatically increased the pass error slider, meaning that the passes they do complete will have a much lower accuracy rate. What this means is that even when the computer is trying to speed up and go tiki-taka and do all these one-touch passes, it's going to make more mistakes that you, the manual user, can exploit to regain possession more easily. Now, of course, we have to make sure the game is still difficult, since this is supposed to be the highest level after all. We don't want to lower it so that it's just, painstakingly easy. So we had to make sure the manual player can't exploit all this extra possession too easily. So we lowered the pass speed for users too, though we also dramatically lowered the pass error, because one of the most frustrating things about trying to play on the default Ultimate level is that your passes simply don't go to the player you are clearly aiming towards, often leading to turnovers, fast breaks, and easy goals for the computer. These are those controller throwing moments that we're trying to prevent because it simply doesn't do what you told it to do. We've also increased the shot error for both sides, more so for the computer because they have the ability to go top bins from the outside box even with these low-level players if you don't lower it pretty dramatically. And we've also lowered the shot speed for both sides while increasing the goalkeeper abilities to keep goals more at a premium. You can see some of the other smaller changes we've made after playing dozens and dozens of games and partial games and constantly tinkering. And if you have any questions about any of the specifics that I didn't mention, get in those comments down below, let me know, ask me questions. I am happy to explain the thought process and the reasoning behind any of them, and by all means, this is a work in progress. So how did we test this out? We had to play a ton of games to make sure that the sliders are exactly where we want them. But the key is to play games with evenly matched teams, and it was important to do so at various skill levels. So I played dozens of games at every level against evenly matched Premier League teams, La Liga teams, Scottish Premiership teams, even clubs way down on different levels of the pyramid. And this is really important because gauging things like player speed and shot power are really difficult to do if you don't play with varying levels. If you only use the best players, they look a lot better and you'll adjust it too far. My goal was to find a set of sliders that work no matter what level of career and what type of career you want to do, and one that will continue to work for you even if you start at the low levels and you work your way along the road to glory. These sliders should be perfect no matter what caliber of club you're playing with. Now, by applying these sliders, you're going to experience an FC24 game that's actually challenging, but should also be possible, and it gives you the most realistic on-field product that I can find. It shouldn't be easy. This is meant to be ultimate difficulty. This is still supposed to be the hardest level, but you should actually have a chance to compete. Matches will feel like intense battles, and victories will be hard-earned, making the wins that much more enjoyable. But here's the thing, we're not done yet. I want to hear from you. If you try out these slider settings, let me know how they work. Get down in those comments. Tell me if I made something too easy, it's still too hard, what issues you're having. Everybody's gameplay will be different, but your feedback will help us continue to improve and refine the Total FIFA Career Mode sliders to give you the best FC24 experience possible. So there you have it, FIFA fans or FC24 fans, our Total FIFA Career Mode slider settings that have made ultimate difficulty much more realistic and much more playable. We hope this video helps you enjoy FC24 like never before. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe down below, share it with friends, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PitchsidePub. Thanks for tuning in here at Total FIFA Career Mode.